Welcome to Dan's On Fandoms. I'm Dan. Today, we're going to dive into 7 interesting facts about my number one homeboy, Yoda. Born in 896 BBY, Yoda was Grand Master of the Jedi Order and trained Jedi Padawans and younglings for 800 years until the fall of the Republic and Jedi Order in 19 BBY. Yoda first appeared in Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back, and our little green friend has stolen the hearts of Star Wars fans both young and old ever since. As a youngling, Yoda was my favorite character, and I can still remember watching Empire Strikes Back for the very first time and being enamored by this little green dude who talked weird and helped train Luke in becoming a Jedi. Over the years, he's continued to be one of my favorite characters in all of Star Wars. Plus, his ears and furry head are adorable, and then there's this.
Rockin', rockin' and rollin', down to the beach I'm strolling.
So let's discuss 7 interesting facts about one of the coolest characters in all of Star Wars, my man Yoda. Number 1. Yoda looked way different when first designed. During the creation process of The Empire Strikes Back, Star Wars creator George Lucas and writer Lee Brackett tossed around the idea of a character such as an alien for Luke Skywalker to play off of and learn from for the film. They began toying with the idea that this alien character would appear repulsive and slimy, but then would become kind and wise, and they'd ultimately teach Luke a great deal about the Force. Just like that, Yoda, or Minch Yoda as he was initially known, was born. Much of the information and training that Yoda gave to Luke on Dagobah was originally going to be taught by Obi-Wan Kenobi. However, Lucas had decided it would be best to have Obi-Wan die during A New Hope. With Obi-Wan dead, George Lucas conceived Yoda, who could then fulfill the role of Luke's teacher after Kenobi's death. Early concept designs of Yoda by Joe Johnston and his assistant at the time, Nilo Radas Jamero, showcase Yoda appearing much different from the final design of our little green friend. These designs imagined Yoda as a large alien before he was redesigned as a tiny one, with various gnome and even elf-like portrayals being created by the design team of Empire Strikes Back. Eventually, makeup and creature supervisor Stuart Freeborn created the design of Yoda's face that Star Wars fans now know and love. Stuart based Yoda's face on his own, as well as Albert Einstein's, so that our homeboy could appear just as intelligent. Wendy Froud and Frank Oz also contributed to the construction of Yoda, and it was Frank Oz who brilliantly brought the character of Yoda to life, acting as the voice and puppeteer of my homeboy. Number 2. At one point, Yoda had a child teacher and fought a mountain. Sometime prior to the events of The Phantom Menace, Yoda was sent to rescue a young Force user that was being ransomed by a group of pirates called the Fleshmongers. After rescuing the youngling from the Fleshmongers, Yoda met Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi at a nearby planet and dropped the youngling off with the 2 Jedi so as to be taken back to Coruscant. On his way to meet Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, however, Yoda had felt a disturbance in the Force and left to investigate it, which led him to a planet that wasn't on any star maps. Once on the planet, he was met by a group of warrior children known as Mud Dwellers who wielded spears with tips made from a stone alive in the Force. Yoda soon discovered that the Mud Dwellers were at war with a group of Force-sensitive children called the Rockhawkers. To his surprise, Yoda learned that the Rockhawkers used Force-attuned stones that were extracted from a nearby blue mountain to amplify their powers in the Force, which they referred to as stone power. Yoda was then captured by the Rockhawkers and forced to venture to the blue mountain, seeking its heart, as the Rockhawkers called it, and came upon a boy named Garo who was also a Rockhawker and could wield the stone power strongly. Because of this, Yoda asked the child to become his master and teach him the ways of the stone power, to which Garo obliged. As Garo trained Yoda, the two discovered the heart of the mountain and learned that the mountain was actually a living creature strong in the Force. For 9 days, Garo and Yoda meditated and communed with the mountain until it was able to fully revive itself, forcing Garo and Yoda to leave the depths of the now living mountain. Once outside of the mountain, Garo rejoined the Rockhawkers, and the children took control of the mountain using their stone powers and forced it to attack the Mud Dwellers. Hoping to save as many lives as possible, Yoda faced off against the mountain and used the knowledge that he had learned from Garo to topple and stop the mountain, saving the Mud Dwellers from almost certain death. Number 3. Yoda helped Ahsoka in learning how to wield 2 lightsabers. By 21 BBY, Anakin Skywalker's apprentice Ahsoka Tano was still training to perfect her ability to wield 2 lightsabers in combat. One day, while Ahsoka was sparring with Anakin at the Jedi Temple on Coruscant, Master Yoda arrived to inquire about Ahsoka's progression in her training. To Ahsoka's surprise, Yoda informed her that he wanted to spar with the young Padawan learner to see how her skills had progressed. When Ahsoka prepared to spar with a Jedi Master, she initially ignited wielded only one of her lightsabers as she did not feel confident in her ability to wield two lightsabers, but Yoda insisted she use both. During their sparring, Ahsoka initially used an orthodox grip for holding her lightsabers, copying the grip Anakin used when holding his lightsaber. As Ahsoka struggled against Yoda, he explained to the Padawan that what made her unique made her strong, and that she must always be herself. Understanding the lesson that Yoda was instilling upon her, this prompted Ahsoka to use an unorthodox reverse grip when holding her lightsabers, the same grip we'd see her use throughout the Clone Wars, Rebels, and The Mandalorian. This new grip allowed Ahsoka to fare much better against Yoda, who then advised the Padawan to always take what she learned from her master and make it her own. Number 4. Yoda approved a plan to assassinate Count Dooku. In 19 BBY, the Jedi Council began discussing Count Dooku's involvement in the Clone Wars and how to handle the Sith Lord following Dooku and the Separatist Army's invasion and ravaging of the planet Marrani. Jedi Master Mace Windu argued that billions of Separatists followed Count Dooku, that every conspiracy throughout the war could be traced back to the Sith Lord, and that the Separatist movement would collapse without him. Because of this, Mace then suggested that Count Dooku be assassinated. Of the members of the Jedi High Council, Obi-Wan Kenobi was the only one to initially dissent against the notion, while Yoda and the remaining council members all expressed sorrowful yet calm agreement with Mace's suggestion to assassinate Count Dooku. Thus, it was ultimately concluded that killing Dooku was necessary to end the war and prevent more deaths from occurring. The council decided that Jedi Master Quinlan Vos, who had considerable experience with undercover work, would be the Jedi best suited to assassinate the Separatist leader. Obi-Wan then spoke to Vos and informed him that the council had assigned him with a secret mission to assassinate Count Dooku. When Vos suggested that a partner accompany him, Yoda recommended Asajj Ventress, the Night Sister and Dooku's former Sith apprentice, for the mission. Knowing her hatred for Dooku, Ventress agreed to assist Vos, and the two worked together to try to assassinate the Dark Lord of the Sith, with Ventress teaching Vos the ways of the dark side. Ultimately, Vos and Ventress were unsuccessful in killing Count Dooku, and the mission eventually led to Asajj Ventress's death, as well as Vos falling to the dark side and working as a Separatist agent for a time. This led the Jedi Council, including Yoda, to regret their decision to approve an assassination attempt against Count Dooku, an act that they felt was rooted in the dark side. Number 5. The Empire almost found Yoda on Dagobah. Throughout Yoda's time on Dagobah, Imperial probe droids had appeared on the planet on multiple occasions, searching for signs of rebels and/or Jedi. During the events of A New Hope, as the season was changing on Dagobah, Yoda ventured away from his hut in the uplands of the planet to travel to his other hut in the planet's lowlands. As the Jedi Master made the trek, his thoughts strayed from the present and he dwelled on what his life had become, what his life had been before the rise of the Empire, and that it had been a very long time since an Imperial probe droid had scoured Dagobah. As he continued the arduous journey to the lowlands of Dagobah, Yoda began to feel a familiar presence in the Force, the presence of his dear friend Obi-Wan. Yoda also felt the anger and loneliness of Anakin before feeling the thrum and pulse in the Force of Obi-Wan and Darth Vader's duel on the Death Star. Yoda's attention was quickly pulled from Obi-Wan and Darth Vader's duel, however, to a probe droid that had found its way towards the old Jedi. Yoda used the Force to conceal himself with sand before using a pot that Obi-Wan had given to him to hurl it at the probe droid's eye, causing the droid to self-destruct. As this was happening, Yoda felt Obi-Wan's presence in the Force disappear, and he also felt Darth Vader in that moment, whom he still called Anakin, fall into an even deeper pit of despair and loneliness after he killed his former master Obi-Wan. In his distraction, 2 more probe droids appeared and shot at the Jedi Master, but Yoda used the Force to smash the droids into each other, destroying them before they could send a message to alert the Empire of Yoda's presence on Dagobah. To be safe, Yoda buried the droids and then continued on in his trek. Yoda soon arrived at his hut, and after a week or so had passed, he was visited by an unexpected guest, leading us to our next interesting fact, number 6. Yoda wanted to teach Leia instead of Luke. Only a week or so after Obi-Wan died, he visited Yoda as a Force ghost and sought to persuade the Jedi Master to take on one more Padawan, specifically Luke Skywalker, after having seen firsthand the strength in the Force that Luke already possessed. Yoda, however, did not initially see eye to eye with Obi-Wan, instead informing Obi-Wan that he much preferred to train Leia, and for several reasons. For one thing, Yoda wondered if Leia, not Luke, could be the one to turn Anakin back towards the light side of the Force and help restore balance. Additionally, Yoda believed believed that Leia's strength, will, and clarity had the markings of a great Jedi, whereas Luke was unruly, inattentive, and headstrong. Furthermore, Yoda worried that, with Obi-Wan now dead and not able to fully train Luke, his impatience and anger would be two big hurdles in Luke's path in becoming a Jedi, as these were traits also seen in Anakin. Yoda also informed Obi-Wan that he believed Luke wasn't ready to become a Jedi, that he wouldn't fully be committed to the task, and that the boy was reckless. In Yoda's mind, he believed Leia was the opposite of Luke, and that she was ready to take on the challenge of training to be a Jedi Knight. But Obi-Wan persisted and continued to work on convincing Yoda that Luke should indeed train to become a Jedi. Before Yoda would agree to train Luke, however, he asked Obi-Wan what would happen if he failed to adequately train the boy, and Obi-Wan simply replied, "I seem to remember an old master of mine who liked to say something about trying." And just like that, Yoda then agreed to take on Luke as an apprentice, telling Obi-Wan to send the boy to him on Dagobah. And when Luke eventually came to Dagobah in search of the Jedi Master and crash-landed on the planet in 3 ABY, Yoda immediately saw in Luke a new hope for the Jedi and the galaxy. Number 7. Yoda had vowed to never use a lightsaber again. In 3 ABY, while the Jedi Master lived on the planet Dagobah, Yoda found himself in need of re-upping his stores of meat for his meals. To get meat, Yoda had to make an arduous and long trek to a valley on Dagobah that was home to herds of creatures that the Jedi Master could hunt. To kill the creatures, Yoda used a bow instead of a lightsaber, as he did not want to diminish the weapon of the Jedi in his pursuit for food. Additionally, the Jedi Master had sworn long before to never again wield another lightsaber for several reasons. Yoda decided he'd never use a lightsaber again as penance for his hubris that led to the fall of the Jedi Order, for the blindness that led to his exile on Dagobah, and the shame that he felt knowing that the consequences of his failures in stopping the Sith continued to plague the galaxy. Lastly, Yoda also believed that a true Jedi was never in need of a lightsaber. For these reasons, Yoda knew he would never swing the blade of a lightsaber ever again. And there you have it. Those are 7 interesting facts about our boy, Yoda, that you might not have known. As mentioned earlier, Yoda has been my favorite character in Star Wars ever since I was a little kid, and I'm still happy and excited whenever he's included in a new Star Wars story. But what do you guys think about some of the facts we've discussed? What are some of your favorite Yoda facts or moments? Let us know down in the comments. If you like this video, please help out the channel by hitting that like button and making sure you subscribe. Follow the channel on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, all at Dan's On Fandoms. Thanks for watching, and stay nerdy.